Brother and father were being pulled away from my mother and I before my very eyes, and there was absolutely nothing I could do about it. That thought alone killed me. I didn't know where they were being taken, or where we were being taken, but I can assure you, I never thought that would be the last time I ever saw my brother or father again. I was being shoved left and right, and I was surrounded by the screams and cries of everyone. At that point, I couldn't do anything at all, except stay by my mother the entire time. I refused to leave her side. Next thing I knew, I was shoved onto a train, but I had barely any room to move. It was so cold outside I was freezing, and scared, but at least I still had my mom. Where we were going, I had no idea, but I knew it couldn't be good. The train ride wasn't too long, maybe an hour or so. Finally, I stepped off the train to see a barbed wire fence encircling a wide open space. There were a few little shacks and some other buildings, but there wasn't much. It was a concentration camp. I was put in a line and was told to take off my clothes. I didn't question it, I just did it fearing for my life. The line started to move, and then the pace got faster and faster, until it was a light jog. We ran past multiple tables with people sitting at them. I think they were doctors. They were just watching us, and after every few people to run by, they would pick one or two of them out and put them aside. I wasn't sure at the time if that was a good thing or a bad thing. Next I knew I was running by, but they didn't choose me. Later, I discovered that it was a good thing. The doctors were pulling people aside who were unhealthy or old and couldn't work efficiently. I guess they thought I could work well. I was 15 years old and in good shape. Everyone who got pulled out of line that day, I never saw again. After, all the rest of us were given striped shirts, hats, and pants, or skirts. The shirts had a little Jewish star badge on it. I put them on quickly and was then ordered to go into our so-called room. There were so many of us in there. We didn't get much food at all, only enough for us to survive, which was definitely not enough for any of us. The next day, we were all woken up early in the morning and ordered to start digging massive holes. At the time, I didn't know what they were for, but I didn't want to know either. As we were digging, there was a Nazi watching us with a gun, and he was just smiling. He was smoking a cigarette. One of the workers had stopped for a few seconds, and immediately the Nazi took his gun and shot her. I couldn't understand how he could do such an evil thing while smiling, as if it were nothing. It was beyond me. After witnessing such a disgusting thing, I was so scared to do anything wrong. I strictly followed every instruction I was given, because I didn't want to die. Life like this went on for quite a while. Must have been 2 or 3 years, and I was surprised to still be living. People constantly fearing death on one hand, yet wishing for it on the other. We didn't know how much longer we could survive in these conditions. People were so skinny, I could see their bones. It was unbelievably unhealthy, but there was nothing to do about it. A lot of people actually died of starvation. I can't even describe the horrors I saw in the camps. I saw mass graves with hundreds of dead bodies in them. I saw rooms filled with clothes and piles of shoes, all of which belonged to people who were at that point dead. I had constantly seen people try to run away and get caught. Those who were caught were killed right away. I guess at that point they had nothing else to lose. One day, I had been digging a hole when I noticed there was an opening in one of the barbed wire fences. I steadily looked around while continuing to dig, but no one else seemed to notice the hole. That moment was when I decided I was going to run. Hours later, after continuous work, I managed to somehow sneak away. I knew how risky it was, and if I were to get caught, I would be killed on the spot. But I didn't care. I couldn't live like this for much longer. It was dark outside, so I wasn't that visible. I walked in that general area really cautiously, and as soon as I could, I crawled through the hole and ran for my life. There was no turning back. I don't know if anyone in the camp saw me that night, but that day changed my life forever. I was free. I had a new life ahead of me. I didn't know what to do first. I knew my mother, brother, and father had all been killed. I was about 17 or 18 at that point and was on my own. I managed to get around back then. Just a few years after my escape, I met this man. His name was Otto. Shortly after, we got married. Ever since then, my life's been quite the journey, but I can never forget the horrors I had lived through in my teen years. They were forever engraved in my head.